Welcome to another fascinating episode of Psych with Sigmund, where we delve into the intricacies of the human mind and explore the concepts that shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Today we're going to talk about a phenomenon that affects us all, often without us even realizing it: anchoring bias. So, what is anchoring bias? In simple terms, it's the tendency for our judgments or decisions to be influenced by an initial piece of information, even if that information is irrelevant or unreliable. This concept is crucial in psychology because it reveals how our minds can be swayed by subtle cues, leading us down a path of biased thinking. The idea of anchoring bias emerged in the 1970s thanks to the pioneering work of psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. They demonstrated that when people are given an initial value or anchor, they tend to make subsequent judgments that are closer to that anchor than they would if they had not been given any anchor at all. For example, imagine you're at a store and you see a shirt with a price tag of $100. Later, you see another shirt with a price tag of $80. The first shirt may have served as an anchor, making the second shirt seem relatively cheap by comparison. This concept has important implications for our understanding of human decision-making. As my colleague, psychologist Dan Ariely once said, "We don't know what we want until we see what we can get." Our perceptions and preferences are often relative rather than absolute, and anchoring bias is a key factor in shaping these perceptions. From a theoretical perspective, anchoring bias is closely related to other cognitive biases, such as the availability heuristic and the representativeness heuristic. These biases all reflect our tendency to rely on mental shortcuts or rules of thumb when making decisions, rather than taking the time to gather and evaluate all relevant information. One of the most significant research findings related to anchoring bias comes from a study by Tversky and Kahneman themselves. In this study, participants were asked to estimate the number of African countries in the United Nations. Before giving their estimate, however, they were given an anchor, either a high number, e.h.d. 65, or a low number, e.h.d. 10. The results showed that participants who received the high anchor gave significantly higher estimates than those who received the low anchor. Another study that illustrates anchoring bias is one conducted by psychologist Richard Thaler. In this study, participants were given a hypothetical scenario in which they had to decide how much to pay for a bottle of wine. Some participants were told that the wine normally sold for $20, while others were told it normally sold for $50. The results showed that participants who were told the higher price were willing to pay more for the wine than those who were told the lower price. So, how can understanding anchoring bias help us in our everyday lives? Well, for one thing, it can make us more aware of the potential pitfalls in our decision-making processes. By recognizing when we're being influenced by an anchor, we can take steps to correct for that bias and make more informed choices. For instance, when negotiating a salary or purchasing a product, being mindful of the initial price or value can help us avoid being swayed by an unfair anchor. In therapeutic settings, understanding anchoring bias can also inform strategies for addressing cognitive distortions and improving decision-making skills. By acknowledging the role of anchors in shaping our thoughts and behaviors, therapists can help clients develop more balanced and nuanced perspectives, leading to better mental health outcomes. For example, consider a client who is struggling with anxiety related to financial decisions. The therapist might use anchoring bias as a framework for understanding how the client's perceptions of risk and value are influenced by initial anchors, such as a high or low estimate of potential losses or gains. By becoming more aware of these anchors, the client can begin to develop more realistic and adaptive decision-making strategies. By recognizing the power of anchors in shaping our judgments and decisions, we can take the first step towards developing a more nuanced understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In fact, anchoring bias has implications that extend far beyond individual decision-making. It can also influence group dynamics and social norms. For instance, research has shown that when people are given an anchor for a social norm, such as the percentage of people who engage in a certain behavior, they tend to adjust their own behavior to match that norm. As we move forward in our understanding of anchoring bias, it's essential to consider the interplay between cognitive biases and social influences. By recognizing how these factors interact, we can develop more effective strategies for promoting positive change and improving decision-making at both individual and collective levels. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.